Hello all, and I'm going to do this video before I do the video that I will do later tonight. For those of you who are not aware, I've been pretty much every Thursday, I've been doing a kind of a live stream at 10 Central, 11 Eastern, wherever your time zone may be within those numbers. But I wanted to talk about these things first before I did that, because it felt kind of weird to like do that and then do the video on this stuff after. But so just two things. The TNA pay-per-view Redemption I wanted to talk about because I did watch it, and then the Saudi Arabia stuff, and I have a lot to say about that. So let's start with Redemption because I don't have as much to say about that. And I thought this was, I would say, a good pay-per-view, which has pretty much been the consistent, or what I think most people thought. Not a great pay-per-view. There were some matches I liked a little bit better than everybody else, and there were some matches that I didn't like as much as I think a lot of other people, so there was that. But the show was good, which is fine, except that you can find lots of great wrestling out there now, and with the stigma that surrounds TNA, even though they did some really cool stuff on here, and there was a lot of interesting things. This was like a TNA Lucha Underground pay-per-view type of thing. It kind of felt like, but it was a lot of fun, and it was good stuff. I mean, a lot of it was good, but good isn't good enough, and this really needed to be great. Probably even better than great. It needed to be awesome to kind of cement it, and it wasn't. But it was really good. It definitely is somewhere to start, but I definitely think that if I'm Scott D'Amore and who's the other, and Don Callis, those are the bookers now, right? Right. Maybe push a little harder. That it needs to be like really great, or it really, going on pay-per-view isn't really going to benefit them very much, given where TNA is right now. But I mean, that kind of sucks, but that's the reality of the situation. And if we can sit there and go, yeah, they put on a good pay-per-view, but if putting on a good pay-per-view is like, who really cares? You can watch Ring of Honor put on a good pay-per-view. And they have, I would say, bigger stars because they have access to the Bullet Club, which makes it a bigger deal. And then anybody can watch. Then you got, if you want to get online, you can watch New Japan. There's WWE for the most part can put on good to great pay-per-views. We'll see with the dual branded pay-per-views what that does. But this was definitely not a show to cement them and to get people, I would say, excited. I think it was you could say a good stepping stone, but Slammiversary has to be excellent, I think, and I don't think there's any really way around that. So there you go. So they opened with Aerostar Vs Drago. This is more of a Lucha Underground match. It was good. It was what you would expect with these guys. They did a lot of cool stuff. So there you go. That if you like their Lucha Underground stuff, you would probably like this. Then we got Scott Steiner and Eli Drake taking on LAX and winning, which I was kind of like, I mean, I kind of get, but this was not as much fun as the Scott Steiner match from the Lucha Underground. What was it? Yeah, from the what was it? It wasn't. I can't remember whichever match he did. Was it the WrestleCon Super Show? I think it was. It wasn't much fun as that. This was just kind of like, to be honest. It wasn't all that great. I would say it's like maybe okay. Then you had a six-way with Brian Cage, Ishimor, Dezmond, Xavier, Fantasma, and DJZ. They did mention that Fantasma and King Corno are kind of the same people, which was kind of cool, and that so that's kind of cool. Even though they're supposed to be different people, so that was kind of weird too. But anyways, but it was cool. I really like DJZ. I really do like him. I think he's really good. Everybody in this match was really good. This was maybe some people would say the best match on the show. I would say probably maybe the second best match on the show myself. But it was still really good. It was what you want kind of in a match like this. I kind of think this maybe would be better as the opener myself. Then we had Taya Valkyrie taking on Keira Hogan. This was no good. This was just kind of, this is not what you want in a women's match, especially, this is one of those matches where why have a women's division if this is what you're going to give us, to be quite honest. That's brutal, but it's honest. Then you had Matt Sydal taking on Petey Williams for the X title. This was good. It was just kind of there. You know, I think this probably would have been great like 6 years ago. But it was still good, but it was like it was there and just felt like kind of filler, unfortunately. But it was fine. Then we had the hardcore match, House of Hardcore match. You had Sami Callihan and Jake and Dave Crist taking on Eddie Edwards, Tommy Dreamer, and Moose. This, of course, all was from Eddie Edwards getting baseball batted by Sami Callihan. I didn't like their match from the Lucha Underground TNA show, and I probably didn't like this match as much as a lot of other people did. That said, the storytelling in the match was really good. It was really good with the end and Edwards hitting his wife and all of that. But the match itself, it was fine. But I didn't like it as much as I think a lot of other people did, but that's me. Then we had another knockout match, Allie taking on Su Yung. This was, again, not very good, unfortunately, and was just kind of there, I hate to say. I think this is the match Tessa Blanchard came out, which is kind of cool. I like Tessa Blanchard. You have to wait and see. She's like, she could be something, could not be something kind of thing. And then we had the main event, Austin Aries defending his title against Pentagon Jr. and Fenix. I really liked their match from the Lucha Underground and TNA or Impact show from WrestleMania weekend. This was, I thought, better. I liked this match, I think, a little bit better than everybody else. But it was cool. It was cool that Pentagon Jr. won. Though I guess spoilers that he loses it back to Austin Aries, which kind of makes sense. But it gave you a pretty cool a cool moment on the pay-per-view, which that was cool. So that is that. And like I said, the pay-per-view was good. It just wasn't like great, and it needed to be great. It felt like it was lacking something. The wrestling for the most part was really good. There was some bad. I would say there was lots of good to bad. With one great match. And I think I liked the show a little better than maybe some people did, but at the same time, it still wasn't what I think Impact needed to move forward. But it's a starting place. So maybe come Slammiversary, they will add some stuff to that. So there's my review of TNA Redemption. Yes, I did a review of TNA, or Impact. I guess I should just say Impact to stop saying TNA, because it's Impact now. And it's a completely different company. Which is kind of interesting stuff. But anyways, but yeah, so we'll see on Slammiversary. Hopefully they do good. So then we have tomorrow, while I'm making this, probably maybe while most of you see this, it'll probably be the same day. The Greatest Royal Rumble. I will tell you, I am not watching the show. I have decided not to watch the show. That's kind of my protest. Now, let me explain some things. I am very much a free market guy, to the point of I believe that, you know, free market and commerce does great things of breaking down walls, of changing societies, of all of those type of things. So that's fine. But what I'm and let me I feel like if you have trade with countries, you have a dialogue, and often you get the best of both cultures. So because you can, there's very few cultures out there that have like no redeeming qualities. There's a lot that have very few redeeming qualities, but most cultures have at least some redeeming qualities. And so the idea is through trade cultural you get cultural trade as well, and out of that you get a you get a lot of like the good stuff from both cultures, and it raises the culture altogether. So I'm a firm believer in that. And if WWE was just doing a non-hyped pay-per-view where they were just going and they were doing just a show in Saudi Arabia, I wouldn't have a problem. Not at all. I'm also a firm believer in the Olympic ideal. And if you don't know what the Olympic ideal is, or the idea, I guess, is, and this is kind of separate from the IOC. The IOC sucks, I'm going to be honest, and is not a fair representation of what the Olympics should be. But the idea behind, one of the ideas behind the Olympics is you bring in different cultures. Those cultures get to meld. Those cultures get to meet. You maybe find out the cultures that are kind of like to each other, or don't like each other, or have been raised not to like each other, maybe they learn their similarities through sports. They camaraderie through sports, friendship through sports, and through that you start a dialogue of better relations, of better cultures coming together, that sort of thing. And I do believe that within the IOC. I think if you look at the Olympics, you can see that that can happen. Now, I don't always agree with what the IOC does, and that's the people that head the Olympics. I had problems when they went to China, for example. I wasn't a big fan. I'm not a big fan of some of where they decide to hold the Olympics. I get why they do it at times, but sometimes they allow themselves to be used for PR, and I'm not a fan of that. And I'm not a fan of what WWE, because that's what WWE is allowing themselves to do with Saudi Arabia as well. Yes, they are getting paid a ton of money, and I get that. It's a ton of money. That said, here's my issues, and there's tons. So beyond just the fact that there are no women on the show, which to me is a problem, because I feel like if you were going to be used as propaganda by the Saudi government, then WWE should have said, fine, you can use us as propaganda, but we have to have at least one women's match, just one, on the show. And and the women can be complete, we'll put them in bodysuits, they can be covered, whatever. Because they've done that before. And that, you know what? That'd be fine. I'd be like, okay, you know what? They are on a path to maybe not improve, at least somewhat improve the situation there in that degree. So there is that. Are they going to sell, Finn Balor's new shirt there? Probably not, which is no good. If you followed kind of how the tickets have worked, the tickets are kind of wacky. I thought that, like, when they announced, soon after they announced the show, they announced that they already sold out. And I guess that's not what happened, because I thought the Saudi royal family had basically bought and they pretty much did. They pretty much just paid WWE, and then they put tickets for like super cheap, and they're trying to fill it with families, so there are women in the audience. These single men are like up in the rafters where you're not going to be able to see them or hear them. All sorts of that stuff, which is kind of again, you're allowing yourself to be used as a PR machine for another country, and you basically rolled over on the women's thing. The other thing is that they push Stephanie McMahon. If you follow WWE like outside, like in the real business world, and like for Wall Street and business journals and all sorts of other things, they do push Stephanie McMahon as like, look, we've got this real powerful woman as our spokesman, and as one of our lead people in the company. Isn't it a great thing, and isn't it a great thing for women, and blah 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 blah. And look, anyone that follows wrestling knows that there's a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of bullshit that comes with that, but this is like even more so, because now you're allowing this company, which has been featured as, you know, and they love to. I mean, they just did a conference, I think yesterday, where they talked about the fact that they were leading in the women's, what were they? I always think if they say revolution, but I guess it's evolution, movement. Keep in mind that, you know, in sports, you know, women's sports really has evolved since like the early 70s, and that, you know, WWE was like way far behind when Ronda Rousey was getting like super hot, when they should have, you know, flipped the switch and turned the women into something more than just pretty thing. Just look, wrestling is a cosmetic industry. You know, how somebody looks pays is part of the presentation. That said, there's nothing wrong with having people who look good and also can actually wrestle and are athletic and that sort of thing, and having a blend of it, especially since you saw in Japan that it definitely can work. And they were, you know, WWE was so far behind the times, I would say, with pushing women and elevating and really pushing women as athletes, that it's ridiculous. And I think we all know that, and it's still, to some point, they still don't really do it as much as they say they do if you actually watch the product. So there is that part of it too. And so it's very hypocritical, in my opinion, that they are doing this show. Not just doing the show, but that it is a huge pay-per-view that, in some regards, it looks like they made WrestleMania, which is supposed to be their biggest show of the year, suffer for this show. And if Roman Reigns wins here, there's evidence of that. And if I was someone that bought tickets to WrestleMania, I would be very pissed off about that. Very, very pissed off. And I would also say if the way they booked Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania versus if he were to win the greatest Royal Rumble, I think that would even piss off the people even more that bought tickets just to see Daniel Bryan wrestle, and then had to go through that whatever booking crap that we went through as well. You know, they are promoting this as a pay-per-view. It's a special. If you follow any of the wrestlers or anybody on social media, you can see that they're taking pictures with everybody. They're like, "Oh, isn't it great? It's great to be here. It's a lovely city. Blah 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 blah. Wish you should come here. Blah 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 blah." And it's like, forget all of the bad parts about the country, which there's tons. There's tons of problems. And now there's tons of problems everywhere. But let's be honest. We're talking about major issues. And that, to me, is kind of the bigger issue, is that the fact that they are allowing themselves to basically be used, which is what the Saudis wanted, as a way of showcasing how, they are changing. And they are, but there's still lots of problems. And that's more of my problem with it. Plus, and if you think I'm conspiracy speaking here, do your research. Actually look. I'm not. There's more. It's the U.S. Congress found what I'm about to say to be true. You're also. This is a company who, is very big with, saying how they support the troops and they do all this stuff for the troops and they do all this stuff for the military service and blah 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 blah. And is very, yay America, very patriotic, all of that stuff. And yet they're going to do business with the country which had the biggest, had one of, I guess you say one of, either the first or the second, depending on how you want to look at it, but was a primary player in 9/11. There's no question about that. There's no, all of the evidence points to it. All of the evidence is there for it. Which adds just more, to me, hypocrisy to it. And that's the thing. If they were just doing an event in Saudi Arabia, that would be one thing, but that's not what they're doing. They're not doing an event. They're doing a PR event for the Saudi government. And that's different. That's a different set of things. And to me, if you're going to be used like that, that's not okay. And people will bring up, the thing that showdown in North Korea or whatever that was, the North Korean show that WCW did in the 90s, which was different. The political thing was different at the time. But also, that I remember that show, and I remember WCW just barely, like, they would talk about it, but it was like, oh yeah, we're putting on this thing, don't worry about it. They may have pushed, and they didn't even push, may push War of the Worlds even more, even though they didn't push War of the Worlds really that hard, but which should say something. So yeah, they didn't really push that hard. It was a different thing. It was a thing they were doing through uh, through New Japan, and it was a very different type of thing that was going on, other than what we're seeing now. I know people are going to disagree and think I'm overreacting, and that's fine. And like I said, normally I would be fine with this stuff because I think that the idea, and Triple H talked about you gotta start somewhere, blah 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 blah. But you're allowing yourself to be used as propaganda, and it's very evident. It's been pretty evident since he's been there that that's what this is, even though you kind of tell before that's what it was going to be. And I can't. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to review it. If something major happens, I'll talk about it, but it's just not something that I feel I should watch because of that. So there we go. That's my thoughts on the whole situation, and why I won't be doing it. So yes, I did a TNA review, and I will not be doing arguably what could be the second big, well, we'll say the third biggest show, fourth. We'll say fourth biggest show of the year for WWE, because honestly, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It doesn't feel right. And it really, really bothers me. So, there you go. So, with that, I'm done. Have a good one.